Thank you for tuning in to Entertain the Geeky, your source for nerd news.
Hey everyone, what's up? This is Jason back at you with more nerd news. It has come to the time where we are going to do an Avengers Endgame review. I am joined tonight, for this show, by Joe.
What's up?
And just to get the whole thing out of the way real quick, we are going to be talking about specifics of the movie's plot. We are going to be spoiling things. So if you haven't seen the movie, why haven't you seen the movie? Go see the movie.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen it by now, you're kind of really far behind.
Right.
Like, we're what, 3 weeks? 3 weeks in now? 4 weeks?
Yeah, almost a month. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I know John Wick came out, yesterday, a couple days ago.
I mean, I guess that could have been a little distracting for some people, but, you know, I feel like if you haven't seen Endgame at this point, that you just don't care.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't by now, you don't care, and you're probably not listening, so I'm not going to feel bad about bringing up spoilers.
Right. So yeah, we are going to get into the spoilers a little bit. So I guess first off, I'd just like to go into, so how did you feel overall about this as a conclusion of, the 22nd film in a 21 film arc leading up to it? How did you feel about it as a conclusion to the story?
I feel like I didn't bring enough tissues.
Right?
It's probably my main issue. I didn't have tissues for my issues. No, It was a fantastic movie. It's audacious that a movie like this can even exist, honestly, when you think about it. And
I mean, yeah, it's been such a long road, and it's an unprecedented crossover event. So yeah,
this is not a movie that you could just walk into. There's so much background between all the characters and everything else. It's ridiculous that this movie should even be able to exist, much less be as successful as it has been. And oh boy, has it made money.
Oh yeah, it's it's smashing records all over the place. It's closing in on that Avatar record, which
I was about to ask if you had looked, because I haven't in at least 5 days to see how close it is to the Avatar record. Have you?
Oh yeah, it's close. It still has not beaten the Avatar record, and
right.
some have theorized that it might not, but
I mean,
regardless,
it's gonna be close. And honestly, I'm not gonna be mad if it doesn't, because it's a real high number it's got to reach.
Yeah. I mean, in all reality, Disney now has Avatar as well. So, when you look at it, both the top spots are held by their company.
I mean, yes. Lots more than just those two out of the top 10 spots are Disney. I think there's only 3 that aren't.
Yeah. I mean, because I think it goes down from there with, one of the Star Wars movies. I think it might have been Force Awakens. Yeah. And another one that I think was in the top 5 before Endgame was obviously Infinity War and Black Panther. So
yeah.
I honestly think I think what Endgame has done is it has gotten to that monumental total so much quicker than any of these other movies have.
Yeah. No, it got there real fast. I mean, opening weekend, how much was it? Do you remember offhand?
I don't remember the exact number, but I think it crossed $1 billion in its opening weekend.
Yeah, I think it was 1.2 total.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact number, but yeah, it definitely raked in over $1 billion in its first weekend.
Yeah,
so
it was. I mean, domestically alone, it was over 300 million, if I remember correctly. This movie is by far one of the most successful movies of all time. No argument can be made against that.
Yeah, in all reality, it kind of blows me away how successful it was so fast. But I guess really it comes down to, if you're like us and you've been sitting in the seats since 2008, this is everything you could have wanted it to be.
Right. And it helps that Doctor Strange bought 14,605,000 tickets. right? Like
He watched
that-
all the other ones.
Exactly. So I mean, that helps with the box office numbers just a little.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it definitely it brings everything so full circle. And I mean, if you thought Infinity War was a movie that didn't hold your hand, this movie, I mean, there is the expectation on you as an audience member is high. If you haven't watched everything, if you haven't been paying attention, you're going to miss so much of what this movie is and what it did.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just kind of unbelievable how many things they gave closure to that I didn't even think I still needed closure to. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, like, what's his name popping up from Iron Man 3 at the funeral?
Yeah, I mean, when everyone's gathered at Tony Stark's house for his funeral. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Ty Simpkins, the kid who played
Thank
Harley
you, I couldn't
Keener
remember. Yes, Harley Keener.
in
Yeah.
Iron Man 3.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense that they probably stayed in contact and stuff after Iron Man 3. We just don't see that because it's not necessary to any of the storylines we see.
Well,
from
sure, and
there
Iron Man
out.
3 was really the last story that focused solely on Tony.
Right, exactly. Like, there's no reason to bring that up in, like, Avengers 2 or Spider-Man Homecoming, you know?
Right,
So-
exactly.
But it's great that he's there because that's a tie-up. What was your favorite moment of the movie, though? If you could pick one. Do you have that ability?
I don't know
Is
if
that
I
a
have.
hard
I mean,
question?
it is a hard question. I've watched the movie probably 8 times now. And a good deal of those times I actually went to a theater to see it, but you know, there's other ways to watch. Wink, wink.
I heard nothing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're listening, NSA, sorry.
Yeah. Can't prove
but
it.
yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of really, really good moments. It's very hard to nail down one that is specifically just stand out among them all, but I mean, if you're forcing me to pick right now, I would have to say probably still hearing Cap utter "Avengers Assemble" was one of the biggest moments for me.
Yeah, finally getting that and like the true gratuitous splash page image of everybody.
Yeah, I mean,
Was
that final battle was
easily-
fan service. The battle.
Oh man, absolutely. And I was there for it. That I was prepared for. I remembered to bring an extra pair of shorts. But like that whole thing, the fan service the battle, I like that title. Fan service the battle was easily one of the greatest things I've ever seen in any comic book film because of just how gratuitously comic booky it was while fitting so well and not feeling gimmicky.
Yeah, I can agree to that. I mean, and in all reality, it's you know, it's an earned thing. It's an earned moment. I mean, it's not like we just shoved every character we could think of. These characters all have significance to us as an audience.
Building them for 11 years.
Yeah, I think they really earned their payoff, and that's saying something, right? Because it's taken 21 films, and
Yeah.
you know, I do feel like those moments are earned. One of the things I enjoyed really though is, you know, obviously the time travel thing is cool, and you want to see, you know, how that's all going to play out. But I really liked the explanation for time travel.
Yeah.
Because it sounds silly, but they basically debunk all other time travel movies, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. No, and it's I'm not gonna lie, like a little goofy to wrap your head around at first, because we're so used to all the other time travel movies that they mention. It's
Sure.
because of the way theirs is structured is much different, and I like it for that. And
No, I mean,
honestly,
it's very
it kind of
comic
makes more
book.
sense.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think that the Hulk explains it properly in saying that, look, when you leave your own time and you go back to the past, well, that past now becomes your future.
Yeah.
Your previous present is now your past, so you can't affect that with your new present. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. No, like it's because everybody's looking at it as a circular thing like you would with Back to the Future, but you have to consider that regardless, it is still linear. And I like that. Like they really push that.
Yeah, I mean, and when the Hulk is speaking, when Bruce is speaking to the Ancient One, I think the thing that I keep seeing is, oh, Cap's kind of created an alternate timeline and all these other things, and there's holes and blah blah blah, and I think to myself, it all gets summed up by one moment from the Ancient One where she says, "The Infinity Stones create what you call the flow of time.
Right.
Remove one, and that splits." Right. So in essence, what we are explaining is the only way to create an alternate timeline is by removing an Infinity Stone and not putting it back. Right.
Right. As long as you put them back, you maintain the timeline.
Right. So clearly, the only person who created an alternate timeline is Loki.
Yeah. Which
by removing the Tesseract,
how we're getting a Loki TV show now.
Well, sure, and that could be something that they're going with, but in all reality, everyone keeps saying that Cap going back and living with Peggy and having a life with her creates an alternate timeline, and not based on the movie's logic, right? The movie's logic is sound and says the only way to do that. Yeah.
I really would love to see some of those interactions of him putting the stones back, and not just
the Red Skull one, obviously.
Well, I mean, everybody automatically goes for fuck. He's got to put that back. And, I mean, honestly, how do you even put the Soul Stone back, specifically? But that's a whole different thing. Like,
right.
I want to see him put the Reality Stone back in Jane Foster.
where he's got to use the little magic poker thing.
Can you imagine? Just like the moral quandary of him being like, man, I got to put this back in a woman, and it's going to almost kill her. Like,
right.
Like, yeah.
It all works out. Jane lives. It's cool.
I mean, it does, but that's still gotta, like, mess with his brain just a little. Like, I'm nowhere near as morally perfect as Cap is, but, like, even I would feel real awkward doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to look at, the specifics of like, oh, he's got to go back in time and he's got to put the stones back. It's easier just to say he's Captain America, he did it, right?
Right. No, absolutely. And I mean,
he succeeded.
And I mean, I don't need to see these things, and it's honestly fun to leave them to the imagination, where I get to like mess in my own brain about how you go about putting, the Tesseract back into Thor's hands after the Battle of New York, or giving the Mind Stone back to who you now know is Hydra.
Right.
Like, it's fun for me to imagine these things. I don't need to actually see them, but
right.
I kind of want to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'd be nice to get maybe a little one shot that kind of did some funny things with it. But
yeah, one of those like what if Marvel stories.
Right. But so, yeah, I mean, obviously so what we're saying is Cap's ending does not change the timeline, which means that Peggy was always kind of lying to the younger version of Steve, even in her moments of, her Alzheimer's when she was in the hospital there toward the end.
And I mean,
it also says that those children are Steve's children, right?
Yeah. Which, I mean, I'm perfectly fine with, because if for no other reason than like, Cap has hardcore been my boy, like my number one boy for these movies. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of very sad moments, and the culmination of everybody's stories, like how they end, I'm great with. But regardless of anything, I was going to be more upset about the idea of Cap not getting his happy ending than anything else. Like, you could have murdered the rest of the team, and I still would have been more upset about Cap not getting his happy ending than anybody else dying.
Sure. I mean, and obviously, there are heartbreaking deaths in the movie, but I agree with you.
There are. And like, I've never been an Iron Man fan, and that movie broke me because I've super grown on it with these films. But
yeah, I mean,
honestly,
he definitely breaks your heart in the end.
I cried more about out of happiness that Steve got his happy ending, because he super deserved it, and I was very thankful that happened for him.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and so obviously there's big moments, there's big deaths. I mean, I think that I was more on the side that, obviously Hawkeye and Black Widow go to Vormir to collect the Soul Stone to begin with.
Oh, man, that was depressing.
I'm definitely in the camp that thought it should have been Hawkeye that went, but I understand the plot, and, Natasha didn't want to take him away from his family.
Right, which is
I
absolutely
get
a
that.
Natasha thing.
It is, but it's still, obviously like Tony and even like Cap to, like you said, a happier extent. These are moments that really jerk at your heartstrings.
Oh,
because we've
absolutely.
spent so much time building this relationship and getting to know who these people are, and it's just a credit to filmmaking that we can conclude something like that in a story like this.
Honestly, my favorite arc, as far as like the original 6 over the culmination of these movies, now that we have Endgame, is Thor's. Like, watching him go from being the arrogant jerk prince who wants to be king, like Simba out of The Lion King, to an accomplished hero, and he gained a bunch of wisdom, and I would have been fine if we just that was where we ended, with his storyline, really, of having, now we're a lost people trying to find a new home, wise king, etc., etc. Like, that would have been fine as a culmination for Thor. But the fact that they took him and really, with this one, used him to tell a story of how even a strong hero like Thor can end up with depression and PTSD,
Yeah.
was some of the best story writing I've seen for a hero in a comic book character, any sort of medium like that. Like, that was a really cool direction to take Thor. And honestly, one of the greatest moments in the movie for me because of that was when, after his conversation with his mother, the fact that the hammer still found him worthy, and he realized that even all this failure I feel and this depression, like, he's still worthy. Like, that is a beautiful moment in any storytelling.
Yeah, your depression doesn't make you less worthy.
Yeah, and that was a beautiful story to tell, and I'm really glad that was included in there, because there's a lot of people who need to hear that kind of message, and we need more of that in big media, I think. Like,
no, I definitely agree, and in all reality, that is, I saw that popping up on the internet a lot in the aftermath of the movie, that that moment where he realizes that he's still worthy is a message to anybody who's ever dealt with depression. Your depression does not make you less worthy.
Yeah.
Right.
No, and that's definitely, and it was a direction I super didn't expect for them to take Thor in, and I really enjoyed it, and it's a very, very fulfilling arc of a character to see that.
Well, yeah, and in all reality, I've been rewatching, I was telling you earlier, I've been rewatching the movies, and when you look at those original Thor movies, even just the first and the second one, he's not really as much of a comedic relief character as we've come to know him as today.
Well,
he's a much more seriously written character.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the big differences, and you get that dividing line after Dark World. You start getting a more comedic feel with Thor, especially after Ragnarok, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing by any mean, but they did slowly and then very suddenly pull out like all that like old speech, I guess would be a way to describe it, styling that Thor had, where he was only comedic by accident.
Sure,
but but I'm not mad about it, because honestly, based on the amount of time and stuff that he spent around humans, like, it doesn't feel like they just flipped a switch on the character. Like, you can actually look at that as like growth in a way, like cultural growth for Thor.
Yeah, I mean, in all reality, one of the things I noticed is until Thor Ragnarok, Thor's really trying to, they really were trying to take Thor more seriously. And it even goes into Avengers Age of Ultron, where he's just, yeah, he's got some moments where you laugh, but kind of so does everybody, but
Right.
most of the time, he's just a very serious character. And I wouldn't say he's the moral authority, but he definitely feels like the combat authority in the room. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's kind of got that, like, I don't know a good way to describe this. I get what you're saying, but
yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's just because I think both ways worked. I've liked Thor up to this moment, and I definitely think in the post Ragnarok and then Infinity War and Endgame world, I like seeing Thor more lighter, and because that's how he always. For me, that's how he was always portrayed to me in the comic world, at least in my generation of comics. Thor was kind of goofy, right? Like he's just kind of a goofy, dumb god who didn't really understand a lot about Earth culture, but he was a hero on Earth. And he really just embraced that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they definitely had that aspect of the old Norwegian tales, for sure, from like the Icelandic sagas, where like I don't understand these strange apes, but they like me.
Right. They think I'm a hero, so let's go with it.
They think I'm cool, so I will flex and drink, and it will be great.
But yeah, so I definitely agree with you. I think Thor's had a good arc coming into this movie, and I'll be interested to see, obviously with the ending of him, getting on the Milano with the Guardians.
Yes.
If he'll be a bigger part of that next Guardians movie. And if so, what does that mean for the movie? Do we have, are there things that are about the script that need to be changed, or can we just kind of amend it to include Thor anyway?
It's a very good question. I guess only really right now, like Kevin Feige and James Gunn really know the answer to that one 100%.
Sure. And the question is, does James Gunn even know the answer to that at this point? Because, obviously they're being very accommodating of his schedule and letting him continue to work on the project he's been working on before worrying about Guardians of the Galaxy. So at this point, does he even know how he's going to rewrite the script to include Thor as a character?
It's a very good question. I'm going to assume that he probably hasn't, just because he's probably really busy at the moment. I'm sure he's had like an idea or two pop into his head, because like that's just how being creative works, but I don't think he's really had to work it out specifically. I'm just glad that we're gonna get more Thor. Because don't get me wrong, like I wouldn't have been mad if he decided to lay down the hammer in the same way that like Robert Downey and Chris Evans are retiring from the characters now. I wouldn't have been mad if they all took a break, but the fact that Chris Hemsworth came out and was like, I will do this until I die if they let me.
Right.
I'm okay with that because he's fantastic as Thor. I've loved Thor since I was a kid, just because, Norwegian myths and legends and folklore were real cool to me as a kid, and that was a real easy in for comics for me, was that kind of relationship. So that he's probably been my main boy as far as Marvel stuff goes for a very long time.
Right on. Yeah, so I mean, the movie definitely gives us, obviously a new jumping off point for Thor, possibly, and a conclusion to Cap and Tony's story. I mean, these three big heroes that kind of were the basis for the first phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in all reality, I think we have an interesting new Hulk arc to explore here with Professor Hulk.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see what they do with that. Because I know before this movie came out, we had talked before, I think on the show as well, about how we both would be really stoked to see Professor Hulk happen. And now we have him. Like, let's do something with that. That could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has renewed my interest in seeing a new Hulk movie.
For sure. Like, I could use that. Are they allowed to do a solo one?
So that's the
currently,
question, right?
like-
Because it's
like, I was
Universal's
pretty
property
sure-
still.
Yeah, I was pretty sure Universal had said that he was only allowed to be in team films and not a solo film.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they got Spider-Man back, so maybe they can renegotiate that a little bit.
I mean, possibly. I don't know. Maybe we could finally negotiate for Namor and then do Illuminati or something. That'd be cool.
Well, Namor's already back.
Is he? I thought he was
Namor's-
still owned by Universal.
No, Namor's part of the 20th Century Fox license because he technically was a Fantastic Four character before he was a character anywhere else.
Fair. Well, here's hoping then that earthquake that they detected in the ocean was secretly Atlantis.
Oh, I think that was very much a setup for Atlantis in the future of the Marvel Cinematic
God,
Universe.
I
think
hope so.
Yeah, I think Namor is going to be one of the movies we're gonna get revealed to us pretty soon here.
That would be really cool. I would love to see him crop up.
Well, and they've said, right, officially, Kevin Feige has said, look, we're going to announce what the next phase is going to be once Spider-Man Far From Home comes out. So,
yeah. So we're all waiting hotly with anticipation.
right, we as fans need to hold him to that, though. You know what I mean? Like, look,
Oh, yeah.
you
No,
said
like-
wait till Endgame. Now you're saying wait till Spider-Man. Come on, man.
No, like right after we go see Spider-Man opening night, like I'm gonna just call Kevin Feige and be like, "All right, so tell me about Phase 4 now,"
Right.
and I will just blow his phone up until he answers, and nobody should ever question where I got his phone number.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, we know that they've announced Disney had announced a big shift. I talked about it on the news last time I did the news about all these dates for all these nerdy movies that are coming out, and
Yeah.
eight dates over the next 3 years
Yeah.
belong to Marvel Studios.
I also heard that Brie Larson signed on for like 5 more films.
I mean, they kind of got to get her on that contract, the same contract they had Evans on, right? Like
Yeah.
she's gonna be the leader now, so.
Yeah, like so I'm not mad about that, but I don't know for sure that was officially confirmed or if it was a rumor. I don't remember. I read it a little while ago and meant to do more
Yeah.
looking into it, but haven't yet.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
I would imagine that there was talks when she first got the part of a multi-picture contract, and look, this is what we
sure
want
there
from
was.
Yeah.
I'm just unsure if it, like the 5 I read about included like Captain Marvel and Endgame, or if it's 5 movies post Endgame. Either way, I'm
Right.
not super mad about it. I like the character. I like her portrayal of the character. She's doing a great job. Keep her around for a while if she's down to do it. And,
Yeah,
we can
absolutely.
have her and Thor show up in another Avengers film down the line. Or we can do an A-Force film. That'd be cool.
I mean, they definitely set that up with that moment at the end.
They gave us the gratuitous A-Force shot. Just give me the movie now.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to see all of those women in a movie together. That would be amazing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. But I think at this point the thing I'm most excited for as far as Phase 4 for what I know is coming is Adam Warlock, because he's a great character. I can't
Sure.
wait to see him on screen, and I want to know who they've picked, because I guarantee that they probably have somebody picked. They just haven't told us yet. I feel like it's one of those things.
Well, there was a rumor that popped up, and it's just a rumor, right? So if you're listening out there, take this with an absolute grain of salt. That they were talking to Zac Efron to play Warlock.
Yeah, I've heard that rumor. I hadn't seen anything confirmed, so I wasn't looking at it seriously. But I have considered the idea, and I know a lot of people would probably like stymie at the idea a little bit because they think too much of High School Musical. But he's a good actor, and I would not be mad at that choice.
I mean,
I don't think it's a perfect
yeah, I mean, in this
choice
day and
by any
age,
means, but
I mean, they haven't really made too many bad choices when it comes to casting. So
no, God, no. And I mean, if they think he can do it, then he can probably do it. And I need people to not be mad about it. Like, I don't think he'd be a bad choice. Is he my first choice
Right, I mean,
for Adam Warlock? Not really. But that doesn't make it a bad choice by any means.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, I think we as fans and some of you that are listening out there probably are guilty of this as I am, of kind of taking things a little too seriously and kind of overreacting when we don't really know what this person, how this person that's being cast or talked about being cast might be able to portray the character. So
Right.
it's a terrible thing that we often quickly rush to judgment on these
Oh,
things.
yeah. No, we've been doing it since Tim Burton's Batman, at least, because everybody freaked out about Michael Keaton, and it's
Well, yeah,
gotten no better. I mean,
But at least back then, the internet wasn't a thing, so
well,
we
that's
didn't have
true.
people,
But I mean,
raging and.
we had the internet in 2005 when we had The Dark Knight, and everybody freaked out about Heath Ledger as the Joker, and then had to eat their words real hard.
It's true. So yeah, I mean,
if a movie studio picks somebody and your automatic reaction is, "Oh no, they're terrible," like 90% of the time, I need you to like be quiet and just wait for the movie.
right. I mean, reserve your judgment until you see, because just because you've never seen the actor do a movie like this doesn't mean the actor's not capable of doing a movie like this.
Right, exactly. Like, let them
Yeah.
do something a little outside the box.
Right. That's the biggest reality. Is just give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we get Zac Efron, I'm down for that. But I want an official confirmation for Adam Warlock, and I'm excited to see what we do with him.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt we're going to be hearing any confirmation on anything anytime soon for Guardians Volume 3 because of James Gunn's new commitments to Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I mean, it'll probably be 2021 at this point before we get Guardians 3.
Right.
Because I think Suicide Squad's earliest release date is supposed to be like fall of next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what they're aiming for.
Yeah, I think they were talking about doing like a November date. So it'll probably be at least summer of 2021 before we see Guardians 3, and honestly more likely 2022.
Right.
So, which honestly I'm fine with. Like, I wouldn't even be mad if Marvel at this point slowed down and didn't give me like 3 movies a year.
Yeah, well, they're giving you 2 next year, so you have a little break there. But then 2021 and 2022 go right back to 3. So
Yeah, well, just because I make more money now doesn't mean I need to spend it all at the movie theater anymore.
I mean, I'm gonna keep spending as long as they're gonna keep making.
That's fair. I know I will too. That's the
Yeah,
worst
you
part about
definitely
it.
will.
They've got me bought in so hard, and I hate it.
I mean, I think I remember a moment in the Honest trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy where it just compared them to the Avengers and called them the Space Avengers.
Yes.
And literally the narrator says, why? Because we're fucking Marvel. That's why. You'll pay.
Exactly. And it's so true. I might
We
as
can
well
do
just,
whatever
like,
we want.
I might as well just like stamp a Marvel tattoo to like the back of my neck like a barcode.
Right.
And they can just
Well, and they're
scan
gonna go,
me when I go into the movie.
Well, right, and they're going to go completely extreme with it in the next phase because one of the big rumors is the Eternals. Well, who the hell, besides ridiculous comic book fans, know who the Eternals even are?
I know, right? I had to have that conversation with a coworker not too terribly long ago. Like, his only exposure to this has been the films, and we were talking about, confirmed stuff coming up, and I was like, well, they're doing an Eternals film. It's like, what is that? So then I just like brought him some comics to work the next day and was like, here, read these.
Well, that's good. You did your nerd duty well there.
I try. He's a slow reader on it, but it's not because he's a bad reader as much as he has like 3 young children, and works like nearly 60 hours a week. So I'm
Sure.
not mad that he's taken a moment.
Right.
But he was upset that we couldn't see like Endgame together in a special screening where he could pause it and ask me a question and then go back to the movie.
Yep.
And I told
Yep.
him like, because he didn't manage to see it till like the following Friday.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, no, like he did it. He was real good. He didn't get any spoilers. Me and the couple other coworkers who saw it opening weekend didn't tell him anything because we're nice people.
Right.
And
you shouldn't spoil the movie for your friends, guys.
and he was talking right, and he was talking about wanting to do that special screening, and I was like, dude, just take a small notebook and write stuff down.
Right.
Like,
write
just,
some questions to
just
ask me
write
after
your
the movie's
questions
over.
down. And I did that, like, not thinking that he actually would, but then he came to work the next day with like one of those mini flip pocket notebooks.
Jeez.
And was just like, all right, so tell me what this is. And that was a lot of fun. It was a nice bonding moment between me and him.
Yeah, I mean, my father does something similar pretty much after every Marvel movie he sees, where he immediately calls me and says, okay, well, what about this, and what about this, and what about this, and what about this?
Yeah.
And I just, again, do my nerd duty, and I just go through all those questions with him and field them as best I can.
You share your knowledge as best as you can, and occasionally, it probably happens to you less than it happens to me, but every now and then I'll get a question and be like, honestly, I don't really know. Let's look it up.
Right, yeah, I mean, you don't know everything. Sometimes you
God,
gotta
no.
look stuff up.
Oh, God, no.
And in all reality, we're probably going to be having my dad on the show. If you've listened to the show, you've probably heard him on the show. He's my non-comic perspective on the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, which is a nice perspective to have every once in a while of somebody who doesn't have the involvement we've had. Because you get that
yeah, I mean, just doesn't
general
have the same
audience
expectations
feel.
as us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he'd also have not gone into this with all the different theories that you and I pulled apart for a year before this movie
true.
came out. Like, he'd just go
totally
see it
true.
like a normal person,
Yeah.
Not, sweating over, okay, are they going to do time travel? Like, are we going to get stature? Like,
Right. Yeah, there were so many things as comic fans that we were losing our minds about leading up to this movie.
Yeah.
And in all reality, I'll probably have my dad on the show sometime in the coming weeks to give me his perspective on the conclusion of all of this.
Sure. But all around, fantastic film. Did not feel like 3 hours. I didn't
not
bring
at all.
enough tissues. I've seen it a few times, and it has not aged at all yet.
Yeah, I mean, in all reality, that's why I'm rewatching the movies, right? Because Captain Marvel comes out on digital like in a week here, so
Yeah.
I'm rewatching all the movies so then I can watch Endgame after having watched them all right in a row.
Yeah, I think the next time I do a marathon of them is going to be after the Infinity box set that they announced actually comes out, and then I have them all on like 4K Blu-ray in a big box together, and then I'm just going to watch all of them except Hulk because I'll skip over it.
So I hate to burst your bubble, but that box set was actually a hoax.
Oh, well, now I'm sad.
I'm sorry. I hate to burst your bubble, but I like setting the record straight on my show. And
I mean,
the
that's
box
fair.
set was a nice little hoax that someone cooked up on Reddit, and it looked very convincing. It was a very cool little box set.
I'm going to hold out hope that they release a box set anyways, because that feels
probably
like
will.
something that they do, and let me tell you all the ways I'll spend $300 on that dumb shit.
Yeah, I mean, they probably will release some kind of collection, but you got to also include Spider-Man Far From Home in there, which, obviously is going to be the final movie of Phase 3.
Right. I will definitely agree to that. It has to include it, especially after that second trailer that they dropped with how a big drive of the story is
The multiverse.
the aftermath of the after the snap and the presentation of the multiverse. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
these
as
are
soon
two
as
very important things. They need to be included.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as that story popped up and that clip popped up, I was just like, I need to record news right now because I got to talk about the Marvel multiverse.
Yes.
And I did, ad nauseum, for the first part of that episode of the news. I talked about the Marvel multiverse.
Yeah, you did. I mean, we had 3, snaps on Earth. All that gamma radiation definitely probably made mutants.
Sure, it's a nice little backdoor. Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
It's a backdoor I'm easily willing to accept to get
me too.
mutants into this universe now.
Absolutely. But right on, yeah. Overall, great movie. I think,
fantastic bit of
we
storytelling.
both highly would recommend seeing it if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
even if you're not familiar with a lot of Marvel stuff and you think, oh, I'd have to watch too many movies, it's worth it to watch all of those movies because of this conclusion.
Oh yeah. Oh, I have one last question for you though
Yes.
for this film. Because every time he comes on screen, he has a new costume. How did we feel about Cap's final costume upgrade?
Oh, I liked it because it actually looked like it had the scales that his classic suit had in the comic world.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, it was perfect.
I honestly was worried that they were going to end his story with a bad costume because we kept going back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
But
I definitely
anyways.
think it looked perfect. I mean,
No,
everything about the movie is great.
It looked real good. And yeah, no, it's a fantastic film. I want to go watch it again now.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to sit and watch it right now.
I mean, there's a theater like 2 minutes from my house. I'm probably gonna go now. I'm gonna call
All right,
and see
well-
if they have any tickets.
Yeah, I'm sure they do at this point. I mean, I don't think you have to worry about selling out anymore.
No, probably not. The only thing I have to worry about is it's like a small local theater, so the seats aren't the most comfortable, and that kind of sucks because I'm old and it's a 3-hour film.
Right.
But I have comfy pillows. I can bring a cushion.
Exactly. We suffer through it at the baseball game. We could suffer through it for Endgame.
Exactly.
But guys, if you're digging what we're putting down, do me a favor, go on over to entertainthegeeky.com. We've got the blog stuff there, the trailers, all the stuff. We got E3 coming up in a couple of weeks, so we're gonna have complete coverage of that going on all weekend. Please keep your eyes open for that. We are on all the social medias. We're on the Facebook at facebook.com/entertainmentgeeky, Twitter, twitter.com/entertaingeeky, and Instagram at entertaingeeky. I want to thank Joe for always being the movie guy.
I want people to message you and tell us what their favorite parts of the movie was. That's
that
what
would
I
be
want
amazing.
out of this.
Yeah.
You guys hit me up with how impressed you were with Cap's usage of the hammer, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely hit us up on Facebook. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Let us know what your favorite parts of the movie were. We're definitely
Absolutely.
interested to hear about it.
Oh, yeah.
Right on. Thanks again to Joe.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jason.
Always. And until next time, everyone, stay geeky.